Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it off! He picked it off! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs. All right, welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Rocking the swag today. Patrick Allen here with you on a Thursday, as always. And I got my guy, Matt Connor, to join me. He bailed me out because I did not have a co-host scheduled for this week. Here's what I do, Matt. I either get my shit together on one day and I schedule out a bunch of co-hosts for like non-Verderam shows ahead of time, or I don't do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll find somebody. And I wait till at least today. I tried getting help the day before, but I appreciate you stepping in.
All good, man. All good. It's Chiefs. It's Thursday. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too. So this is kind of a rough part of the year for Chiefs content creators because it doesn't always shake out this way, but unfortunately it did this year. Chiefs have games on Christmas Day and on New Year's Eve. Like that is a double whammy of not cool.
Yeah. It's awesome if you're a fan, I think, because I don't know about you, but we have a small family, so it's not like we fill the day with activities. It's like, you do some presents, you make some drinks, you may even have a breakfast spread, and then you're like, well, what are we all doing now? Like, are we watching Home Alone 3, or am I watching the Chiefs? Right? Am I watching the Santa Claus 12, or am I so if you get to watch the Chiefs, that's great. But coverage wise, you're like, hey, am I working on Christmas? I guess I'm working on Christmas.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's part of the deal. But it is fun. I agree. Holiday games can be fun, but sometimes I prefer not to have the Chiefs playing on like Thanksgiving and stuff because it's a little bit of a distraction. Like you got people over, you're hosting, you're dealing with all that stuff. And so I want to sit down and be laser focused on the Chiefs and not worry about anything else. And I don't like when I'm distracted and stuff is going on. Before we get into news, I just came across this. So did you see this article on ESPN where they projected the rest of the season?
No, I did not.
So they've got they use their FPI, their Football Power Index, and they simulated the last 3 weeks of the season, and then not to the Super Bowl, but the last 3 weeks of the season. So just for fun, I figured I'd let everybody know. They have the Chiefs beating the Raiders this weekend, 27-3. Then they have the Chiefs beating the Bengals, 19-9. And they have the Chiefs losing to the Chargers, 29-19. That's weird. I don't know if their model knows that Easton Stick is playing quarterback for the Chargers. But so with that, the Chiefs finished at 11, based on their model. The Chiefs finished as the 2 seed at 11-6. So the Baltimore got the 1 at 12-5. Chiefs 2, 11-6. Jacksonville was the 3 at 11-6. Buffalo got the 4 seed at 11-6. Cleveland was the 5. Indianapolis was the 6, and Miami was the 7. And in this simulation, all of the teams, save for the Ravens, finished 11-6. All of the playoff teams, which is wild. Outside looking in, we're Houston, Denver, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. So Baltimore gets that number 1 seed.
Yeah,
and the Chiefs in the first round play the Dolphins, which that seems less than ideal. Like of all the teams that could sneak into the playoffs, like would you want to? Isn't that the one you don't want to play in the first round if you're playing wild card weekend?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts there. One, there's a part of me that doesn't want the Chiefs to get the 1 seed. Is that weird to say?
Yes.
I guess because here's what I think. If they get the 1 seed, I mean, that's good for like my current rooting interests. But I feel like if we get the 1 seed, it feels like all the lessons that we are like hoping the team learns, they're not going to learn it. It's like, all the wide receiver stuff, and we're like, this team needs to learn that they need more playmakers, and like all these things we want them to do. It's like, man, they didn't really have to do anything, and they still stumble into the number 1 seed. Is like, does that keep them from learning better lessons long term, or does that keep them from, I don't know. It's more fun. It's more important to get that first round bye and all that stuff. And yet, it's like you root for someone to learn a lesson before they climb the mountain so that they like properly climb it versus like, I don't know, like it's like being born on third base and then like, I don't know, it feels like that kind of thing to me. So yeah, I get what you're saying. I wouldn't be worried about the Dolphins though. Honestly, many of us were complaining about not having the Arrowhead reunion with Tyreek at Arrowhead. So it would kind of be like a makeup for the Germany game in that way.
Yeah, and if you're feeling sentimental about the Arrowhead Invitational, that would still be on the table in a situation like this, right? Chiefs
Yeah.
were playing the wild card round. The Ravens could lose in the divisional, and then the Arrowhead Invitational could be back on. The Chiefs haven't been the number 1 seed every year that they've been in the playoffs during this run. But I still want the number 1 seed. I don't care how they get it. It's one less game. Look, the fact of the matter is, if they don't figure out some of their issues on offense, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. And so the way I see it is like, unless that extra game is like a game that they need to figure it out, but they've had lots of games. So like, they've got 3 games left. And I think maybe a little bit more clarity, and we're going to talk about that in a second, at least when it comes to the wide receiver position, to get ready for the playoffs. That's what this is about. They're going to win. They're going to win the division. They're going to the playoffs. You're going to have a home playoff game. That's all that's really guaranteed to them at this point. So I don't want to play a team. I want to go up against a team that is severely hampered, like the Cleveland Browns are scary because they do have a really good defense, and with the way the Chiefs have been playing, you could see an ugly game that they could lose. But they like Joe Flacco's been playing okay for them. But I'd rather go up against one of those teams that like really shouldn't be in the playoffs, but are in the playoffs because there's more spots now, and have what we had a few years ago when we waxed the Steelers in a wild card game, and it was just a tune-up. All right, let's get to some of the news here. We had a good show for you today. Obviously, we're going to preview this Chiefs-Raiders game we got coming up on Christmas Day. And we're going to do a little Chiefs Christmas wish list. So start thinking, if you're watching out there on YouTube, hit that like button. Start thinking about what your Christmas wishes are for the Chiefs. What present, if you could get one present for the Chiefs this season, what would it be? And we'll be looking forward to hearing your responses on that. We pulled some from our members as well. But some quick news hits. So Sky Moore went to IR. Now, that happened a while ago, but I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. So he could return for the playoffs because it's 4 weeks, right? He has to be on IR a minimum of 4 weeks. So that would be the divisional round. He could come back.
Yeah. It'd be pretty early playoffs. It's not like Super Bowl, but I think many of us were surprised that he was even that injured in the first place. It didn't seem to be a big deal during the game. And then suddenly Andy was like, yeah, we're just coming out with one injury. It's a swollen knee. And then suddenly on IR, you're like, oh, well, something there. I think even some of us thought it was funny business just because it was like, we need a roster spot for Justin Ross. Sky Moore needs a hideout more than he does more playing time. How about we just give him a chance to like get away from the lights for a minute? But clearly that's not the case.
And shout out to our guy Cole. How about those Chiefs who was on the show with you this week? Appreciate you, Cole. And he's always a great guest. He's out there watching as well. Make sure you check out his channel. So what are your thoughts on this? So like when I saw it, I was like, they're done with this dude. They're done with him and they're putting him on IR, because they need a roster spot and they don't think he's going to contribute. I think that's one way you could look at it. Another way you could look at it is he legitimately has an injury. His knee is swollen up a little bit. and they were like, listen, we got Justin Ross coming. We need a spot for Justin Ross to be back on the roster. You're banged up. Also, you're not really giving us very much right now. Why don't you just there's no reason to play through it right now. So they put him on IR because they think they'll probably be fine without him, because let's be honest, they're pretty much fine without him right now.
Yeah.
Maybe worse off. What do you think was the thinking behind this? Did I miss something? Is there a third option here?
No, I think you're right. I just I don't think he's done with the Chiefs at all. You got 2 more years of cost-controlled talent. His second-round pick, Western Michigan, not exactly like Power 5 school. I mean, some guys are late bloomers.
Yeah,
they are, and the Chiefs are going to give him, I think, every chance to be that late bloomer. Other guys just never happen. Josh Kando, that kind of thing, right? So, he may linger for a few years, and then finally, he is going to have to beat out competition next preseason, though. I think he's worn out his 2 times where it's like, oh yeah, you're on the roster. I think that's over. And I think he'll be on the 90-man roster next season with no promises after that.
Yeah, I think so. And it's just, we've been talking about this on my show, is that some of these guys like Tony and Sky Moore, unfortunately for the season, they've mostly been a net negative. Like, the plays that they've been making when the ball goes to them have not really generally outweighed some of the mistakes that have been happening, particularly with Sky Moore and Tony. Like, there's been a couple plays that were just disasters.
Yeah.
He could be a late bloomer, but he's got a lot of, the fan base has obviously lost faith in him. They're fed up. What do you say to Chiefs fans who are just like, they're at their wits' end with the wide receiver group, with Tony, with Moore? Is it just, hey, there's nothing we can do? We gotta, these guys are here, and we gotta try to figure it out.
Yeah. A couple thoughts. One, you got to dance with the one that brung you at this point. The NFL trade line is over. There's no one on the market. Look, forget Jarvis Landry and all that. Look, they're done. All those guys who haven't signed yet at this time of the year, their NFL careers are over. The door is shut. If they haven't officially announced their retirement yet, that means they're in denial or something. But no one's going to ring their doorbell. We're finished there. So, if the Chiefs are going to do anything, they're going to do it with the guys they have. What they do have is inexperienced, younger guys. And I think this is the other thing that's been overlooked. I've tried to say it. I don't know how loud or how else to say it. But like, when we talk about the mistakes that are made, like, let's say MVS this year, or Tony or Sky, those are like the 3, really. The sample size, everyone's like, oh, but they've played so many games, and they have. Yeah, totally. But I think what we don't realize, or don't think about a lot, is that even in those games, it's such a small sample size. It's not like they've all dropped. It's not like Tony's had 10 passes go through his hands and into someone. Like, I'm just thinking, could Tony ever could he ever like set that up again? Like those Dude Perfect videos where they throw the same thing like 1,000 times to get it right. Like, let me bounce this pencil eraser off into the cup, off the wall, into the, like those kind of things. Could Tony ever do that again if he wanted to? Like, through his hands into Brian Branch's hands of the Lions. Branch takes it all the way. And that's the difference in the ball game for the Chiefs. You lose and everyone piles on. Tony sucks. He's the worst. Get him out of there. Never want to see him again in a uniform. And you're like, I feel like at that point, everyone like internally was looking at it going like, man, you couldn't script that again if you wanted to. I mean, that was like a mistake of a mistake, a comedy of errors. Everyone that night was making errors, penalties, whatever. And they kind of stuck behind him. And I'll have some good plays and a couple of bad plays. But in the NFL, a couple of bad plays is enough to derail you completely.
Yeah.
And so you put a couple of those plays within a bunch of games, but it's not like Mahomes is giving those guys 10 targets a game. That's only going to Kelsey and Rice. That's it, man. Pacheco on the ground. Those are the only guys who get like multiple opportunities to make mistakes and still kind of be around for the job. You have to, in the NFL, execute on the very little you're given to eat. You got to eat. And if you don't, you're done. And the difference in that small sample size is the difference between everyone in the kingdom going, that guy sucks, get him out of here, I'm burning jerseys, or I love that guy, I just got a tattoo of him last week. It's crazy. So I don't know. I feel for every one of those guys, honestly. And I don't know what to think about most of them. I'm bullish on Tony. I'm skeptical of Sky Moore. With MVS and his floor, Cole and I were just talking about this on the Tuesday show. You're like, he's good for 600 every year. Every year. He has the same drops. That's fine. But at least there was a floor there. But this year, you're like, where, like, did he lose a bet? Like, where, like, did he hit a wall at 29? Like,
yeah.
Both of us were kind of scratching our heads. Like, that's the unexplainable mystery.
Right.
But, those are my thoughts. Some of my thoughts there.
Yeah, MVS is completely falling off a cliff. He's not giving you what you signed up for, and that's tough. And I think it's time for the Chiefs to recognize that and get him off the field. I tweeted this earlier this week. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. I think what they should do is stop using. I know you're bullish on him and the talent. I think they should stop using Tony as a wide receiver. He's just not producing. He's never produced. He gets injured, and he's a turnover liability with the drops. I would use him as a running back. Why not? They did that a little bit a couple games ago. It seemed to work really well. They've done it with Tyreek in the past, with somebody that get the ball in his hands. It doesn't always have to be a bubble screen. I would say running back, bubble screens. That's it. Nothing downfield, no slants. That's what I would do with him. I would not be concerned about Kadarius Toney getting hurt. I don't want Kadarius Toney to get hurt, but if you need to run, if it helps the Chiefs to run him 12 times in a playoff game, straight up the middle, do it. I don't care. He gets paid millions of dollars. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. Maybe he can give you something before he gets hurt. So that's what I would do with Toney. I would replace all of his routes with all of Tony's other routes with Richie James. I would nail MVS to the bench, and all of his routes get replaced with Watson. Sure. Unless blocking is required. It is the only thing that MVS has done well for them this year is block. He's a good blocker. He's a big body. So some of those bubble screens that you might want to run with Tony, go ahead. Put MVS out there. Let him utilize his blocking skills down in the red zone. That's how I would do it. And then you're going out there, and it's Rice and it's Watson deep, who Patrick Mahomes trusts and who's not great, but he's still the same guy that he was last year for this team, production-wise, maybe even a little bit better. And that's how I would do it. And I'm throwing to Kelsey, and I'm throwing to Rice, and I'm throwing deep to Watson, and I'm throwing to Noah Gray a little bit more. I don't know how many routes they have for Noah Gray, but Noah Gray catches the ball, and he's athletic after the catch. If you can scheme him open, and they're good at that, like maybe one or two passes to Noah Gray a game isn't enough. Get him a little bit more involved. Run a few more of those plays for Noah Gray. And then, of course, Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield, utilizing the passing game. That should be and let me know what you think. Let me know what the chat thinks. That's what I think they should be doing the rest of the way.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what you say. Here's what I don't like. I don't like swapping out Watson for MVS. I mean, I'm frustrated by MVS. I am. But I think if you completely eliminate yourself in the downfield game at all, like of any opportunity, with a player like Patrick Mahomes under center, you have to have someone who at least can be down there. And I know he's missed passes. I like it's painful, the misses that he's had. But I think if you just say, well, we've been burned, so we're not even going to go there. Pat's already averaging like a career low in terms of like, average yards per target. I think it's like 4.2 or so. I mean, it's been painfully minimal offense this year. So we've needed a ton of plays to move the chains at all, which is why it's just been it's a slog in the red zone. It's such a slog in the red zone trying to earn that because the defense is then so compressed. It's so much harder on the offense. Chiefs have had a real hard time. We settle for 3. You can't do that in the playoffs. You just can't.
Right.
So I there's a part of me that wants to keep MVS out there thinking, man, you're still honestly our best downfield option, like it or not, because we got no speed on this team. The other thing
Watson's like a 4.4 guy. Is there any evidence that he may be faster than MVS at this point?
MVS has the better overall body of work as a downfield target overall.
No doubt.
And Watson.
But not this year.
Not this year. If Watson
Dwayne
could
Bowe's
be that
got
guy,
a
that's
great
fine.
resume too, but we're not going to put him out there.
I get it. Watson's had his share of drops too, right? 4th and 20, 4th and 25, last minute, hits him in the freaking helmet, bounces off. I mean, come on. Look, here's the other thing I think. I think about Tony. I want to go back to this. You remember how we used Tyreek his first year?
Yeah.
That's what I think we should be doing with Tony. Because I think he's got Tyreek-like ability. Here's the problem. I think the Chiefs saw what they could turn Tyreek into, which is wide receiver 1. And I think they looked at Tony and said, hey, we're going to do that with you too. And then Tony has fallen apart because he's not healthy enough. And apparently he doesn't have the mindset or the growth curve to be able to get there. I mean, Tyreek put in the work, man. I mean, Tyreek transformed himself into the NFL's top wide receiver. He did the work while the Chiefs were helping him get there. And Tony just doesn't have it. But I think that's what they did. I think they tried to take him from gadget player returner to wide receiver 1. Veach said, you are wide receiver 1. They tried to do it, and he it's just not working. So I think you got to take him back. He's just going to be our Tyreek rookie guy. And that does all the things that you were talking about. Screens, wildcat, sweep, be inventive, and then use them on returns. And that's how you get the most out of that product.
Yeah. And I will say, Watson has 7 big plays this year. Those are plays of 20 yards or more. MVS has 5. They've got pretty much the same number of targets. It's not a huge discrepancy, but Watson catches deeper balls than MVS does this year on average.
Right. But isn't that the thing? The small sample size, it takes one play to look worse. I don't know. I just want to go by the body of work.
With MVS, some guys I agree with. If you look at MVS, I don't have the snap counts in front of me, but I think he's played by far more snap counts than Watson. And so there's so many plays where he's not open or he doesn't do anything. It's a pickle. Well, speaking of that, just a little bit more on the news. The Chiefs signed a wide receiver. Get excited
Miller
for Anthony Miller, who's like 29 or 28. Who played for the Bears, has a little bit of production. I just lifted what you wrote on Arrowhead Addict. Miller's a veteran. Fans might recognize after playing for various teams in the NFL. Second round pick by the Bears in 2018. You can always count the Bears for good draft picks. Spent a few seasons there before landing in Houston and Pittsburgh in 2021. And he spent his preseason with San Francisco before being cut. So this dude was like last playing when people were wearing masks and weren't going outside and stuff. He's just a practice squad guy, right? We're not going to see this dude.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. Look, if you're the Chiefs, here's what you're thinking. Tony's always injured. Sky Moore is out right now. Richie James has been out for most of the season. McKinnon's always like in and out with this groin problem. Kelsey looks like has had a number of minor injuries and has missed a game. I'm probably missing some other people here too who are like MVS. You want to pin him to IR if you can. The Chiefs have just had so many guys dealing with injuries among the pass catchers. I'm assuming Veach was just like, it's going to do us good just to at least have another guy. You got Cornell Powell, and now you got him. The Chiefs have mostly linemen on their practice squad, or they go defensive back heavy. So, it makes sense to let's get another guy in here who maybe, could play the role if we need it.
Well, talk to me about this other guy they signed, Isaiah Gathings. Is it
Yeah,
Gathings?
Gathings.
Yeah.
Gathings is a kid out of Middle Tennessee. The Chiefs scout MTSU pretty well. That's where we found Charvarius Ward. That's where we found Darius Harris as undrafted free agents. So Gathings comes right out of there as well as an offensive prospect. I think he was like 6'2", 220 or 6'4", like 220. So he's kind of big and lean as a wide receiver. They're trying to bring him in as a tight end. They already did that in the preseason. So he signed with them after the draft, and then now he's kind of back again. I think he's back again for a futures deal. Right about now is the time where the Chargers would be going, hey, do you want to sign with our offseason roster? And I think the Chiefs are going, okay, who are the guys that we would want who could get plucked by other teams? Let's get them on our roster now so that then we can sign them to our offseason roster later on. Gathings, I think, is the kind of, we know the Chiefs love that former basketball player, wide receiver. Let's turn them in, Ross Travis, Jody Fortson, kind of guys. And I think Gathings is just the latest there.
And so these guys both go to the practice squad, right?
Yeah, as far as I know, there's no roster spot, and neither one of those guys warrant a roster spot.
And so that's sort of it's not like full protection for Gathings, but anybody who would want to sign him from the Chiefs practice squad has to put him on their roster,
active roster, yeah,
which means they have to cut somebody that they probably don't want to cut. So
yeah,
probably not going to happen. So smart maneuvering here by Brett Veach, getting some depth and getting a developmental prospect, but probably nothing that we're going to see this year. All right, let's get into this fun little segment here, Chiefs Christmas list. So let us know in the chat what's your gift. We'll read some of them. If you could get one gift for the Chiefs, what would it be this year? And I polled some of our members. If you're interested in becoming part of the Arrowhead Addict community, check out the link in the description. We just we got a happy hour right after this podcast. We're going to be hanging out with some of our members, drinking some suds and talking Chiefs. There's all kinds of other great benefits, so check it out. And it's a great way to support the content. So from our guy, Evan Warner, said, I want Travis Kelce to be given a lifetime membership to the Fountain of Youth. Boy, wouldn't that be wonderful? Are you one of these people that think he's lost a step, or do you just think he's banged up a little bit, or is it a little bit of both?
Maybe any and all of that. I don't know what to think there. I think Travis is fine. I think he can be as dominant as ever. I think the Chiefs just lack other targets. I think more than ever, he is the focus of a defensive coordinator's efforts. And even then, he was on track to break 1,000 yards. He's a tremendous player. I don't think we've seen. I don't think we're banging the gong on him just yet. Do you?
Yeah,
do you think this is it for him?
He said some things like about the pain and stuff that, that's always, he's at that age where you're basically going to worry every season that this might be it. But I think that it's been a frustrating year, but I think he's having a lot of fun still. He's a competitive guy. He's building a legacy. That's something to consider. So I think it's how far his body will take him. But what the Chiefs need to do if they want to keep Travis Kelce around longer is they need to absolutely get other weapons so that he can have that graceful tight end, like tail end of his career where he plays for 4 more years and gets like between 700 and 900 yards receiving and like 4 or 5 touchdowns every year, and uses, maybe he's not as dangerous after the catch, but he still has that rapport with Patrick Mahomes. He still needs to get open, and he's not the focus of the opposing defense anymore. That's what he needs to do damage and to help this team stay on top for longer. So that's on Brett Veach. He's got to find those people.
Do you remember when the Chargers had Antonio Gates? He's getting older. He was always a significant red zone threat, and yet they would bring in like Hunter Henry or someone early in his. They draft someone to use in tandem so that he could still eat in the end zone. But you're totally right. But he played like 50%, 60% snaps, or I think that's the proper treatment for him as he gets near 35.
And they're already doing it. His snaps have gone down every year for the last few years. They're trying to take care of him. But I agree. Go get yourself another pass catching tight end. And then, like, while that kid is coming along, when you got that 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, calling the old wily veteran Hall of Famer to get you that first down. I hated Antonio Gates, man. It was like he just would never go away. I was like, God, why isn't this guy retired? He's like 55 years old. Just kept trotting him back out there.
He was so slow too at the end.
Yeah.
But he would find, just like Kelsey finds the soft spot in the zone, he would just find that back of the end zone. You're like, how the hell does he have 8 touchdowns when, like, look, I haven't ran circles around anyone, but I ran circles around Antonio Gates in his finer day. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, he knew what he was doing, man. Knew what he was doing.
Another gift for the Chiefs from Jess Ferris. I want a Chiefs easy, stress-free Christmas Day win. Amen to that, Jess. We've earned it. They put us through a lot this year. A lot of losses in the last month plus. That's what we want for Christmas. Go out there. None of this falling behind the Raiders, 14-0. Just go out there and beat the crap out of them. Souped and nuts, so we can just go back to drinking our eggnog and enjoying ourselves. You agree? Good gift?
Totally love it.
I see Stacy says Marvin Harrison Jr. Chiefs are going to have to make quite the climb to get him, but can you imagine?
I mean, that would take our 1st and 2nd this year, our 1st next year, and a player. I mean, at that point, you'd probably say, we'll trade you a 1st, Nick Bolton, and next year's 1st. Would you do that deal?
Say it again.
I mean, I'm making things up right now on the spot, but I'm assuming to get a top 5 pick. I'm assuming you got to say, we'll give you our 1st and 3rd this year, our 1st next year, and Nick Bolton.
Would I do that? Yes, I would. I think I would.
Wow.
The defense.
I mean, I don't even know if that's enough. I'm just throwing out.
Yeah. That guy is a potential Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I don't. Yeah.
You put him with Patrick Mahomes. You put him with Patrick Mahomes and Rashee Rice and a couple more years of Travis Kelce. He's gonna listen. I'm an Ohio State guy. He's going to have an impact immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. Chris Olave came in, not a great situation from Ohio State, made an impact immediately. Garrett Wilson, terrible situation. Still was like a really good NFL wide receiver immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is better than both those dudes. And those guys are potential all pros with a decent quarterback. Like, he is that good. Patrick Mahomes needs weapons. I don't get as nervous about draft capital as other people, especially with the way that Brett Veach has been drafting in later rounds and finding really good values. Like, you go get a young stud wide receiver like that you're going to cost control for 5 years. Yeah, man. Like, it's,
Go get it.
Did you miss those first round picks we gave up for Patrick Mahomes? Nope. So Brett Veach, there's some holes, but he still managed to build one of the best rosters in the NFL. So I've got faith in his, not every decision that Brett Veach makes, but I've got faith that this scouting department can find really good players with those other draft picks. I don't think they'll make that kind of move. I think it goes against their philosophy of team building around Patrick Mahomes, but it would be awesome. It would be really, really awesome. I think it would work out.
I agree. What's sad though about that, they could have had any receiver they wanted last year in the draft if they were willing to trade up even to 19. Yeah. I know teams weren't wanting to trade with the Chiefs, but like, if you were wanting a top flight wide receiver last year, all of them fell. And last year would have been the one to like trade up and get it. And we didn't. And
well, they said they were trying and they could
yeah. I mean, it takes 2 to tango. So maybe that's it.
Yeah. And that's going to be the thing. Like, I don't know who will be there. Maybe the Bears. Like, you got to figure out, then you got to do all the calculus of like, what are these teams going to do? Who are they going to take? Quarterback wise, like if the Bears end up with like the first pick through their trade with the Panthers, and then they end up with like pick 3 or 4 or something like that. Like you could see a situation like if they like really like both the quarterbacks, do they take Marvin Harrison Jr. first overall to make sure they get him and to take who's left, or you know what I mean? Like there's somebody, do they keep Justin Fields and say like we're taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Like we still believe in this guy. We're gonna we're gonna make one. And there's so many different scenarios that makes it even hard for the Chiefs to know exactly where they need to go. Yeah, that it's fun, but this isn't Madden. All right, Raymond Chandler. I want Santa to bring Mahomes a gift subscription to Better Health Online to help him until Veach gets him a set of NFL wide receivers. It's harsh. But it's hard to argue. He's frustrated.
Yeah. I think we're all in this boat together.
Yeah, it's we need Santa to bring all of us some online counseling. Which is, by the way, that's an option. If you do need some mental health help, there are online tools and things available for you. Check it out. Check them out. It's especially if you feel weird about going and talking to somebody in person, you could have your camera off, and there's text message support from people. So this is a tough time of year for people. So if you do need, not to make light of mental health help, check it out if you need it. Yeah. Jeremy Kennedy. I want Taylor Swift to bring an engagement ring and propose to Travis Kelce immediately following the Chiefs' 8th straight AFC West crown clinching on Christmas Day. That would be amazing. It'd be crazy. It would break the internet and the news media and everything. If the Chiefs, is there a way, Matt, for the Chiefs to clinch the AFC West before the game against the Raiders? Do you know?
No, they have to win or tie.
Okay.
On Monday. If it's a tie, the Broncos have to lose.
Got it. Okay. So win, and they're getting hats on Christmas.
Yeah, win and they're in, man. 8 straight. Did you see Pete Sweeney's post this week?
I don't know.
Maybe he got it from someone else, but he said, before this current run by the Chiefs, everyone in AFC West history had 15 division titles.
Oh, yeah.
Broncos, Chargers, Raiders all had 15. The Chiefs had 8. Now the Chiefs have reeled off 7 straight. Right now, everyone in the division has 15 titles. I think that's incredible somehow.
Ooh, yeah.
And if they win this year, the Chiefs are now up. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That Andy Reid was just like, hold on, I don't like this deficit. He's like, step aside, guys.
Right.
And then we're just going to reel off 8 years of winning. Bananas.
And they've got a chance to get a bunch to build up, to pad a little bit of a lead now.
Oh, yeah. We'll probably need it. After all these golden years, like karma's going to come back around and force us to like watch Matt Castle Jr. coached by Todd Haley Jr. in like 2040.
Yeah. Black Elf 20. For the rest of the season and into the playoffs, I want to see no penalties on the Chiefs. That'd be a big gift. That's not going to happen. Jawan Taylor just jumped offside, did a false start right now, wherever he is. The ref threw a flag, and that's not going to happen. But if they could cut them down to like one or two a game, that would be unbelievable for this team.
Yeah, I was waiting on you. I figured you'd have some sort of joke there about. You always have some joke about like, oh, Jawan just some random thing. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Wherever he is,
he's penalized.
All right. Let's preview this game really quick. Last I checked, it was Chiefs -10 at Arrowhead, over under 41 when these two teams played. The last time the Chiefs stayed in the locker room for the first quarter, we're down 14-0, ended up winning 31-17. The Raiders looked like they had a really good game plan coming out, and the Chiefs defense, it was very much like, it reminded me of the Chargers game, where the Chiefs defense just seemed out of sorts, didn't know what was going on. And then once they figured it out, talent won out, and the Chiefs took care of business. The Raiders scored 3 more points the rest of the way. Are you thinking a similar type of game? The Raiders have been weird. They had like a really bad game 2 weeks ago, and then they vultured Yeah. Zero points. And then they came back, and then the very next week and vultured the corpse of Brandon Staley and the Los Angeles Chargers. So which Raiders team's going to show up here?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a continuation of what we saw in the second half of that game, because now we've got to look at Antonio Pierce and what he was trying to do in that first game. Even in that game, I said in the pregame show, look, which coaching staff are you trusting to make these adjustments? The veterans who are coming in, or this interim guy who's relying a lot on like energy and like everyone's against us. I'm interim. Let's do this, guys. Like that only goes so far. So if you're playing on a team who's already saw all that, you're like, yeah, the most you guys have going for you is you watched Rudy before you came out and you were more emotional than us. Like that's not lasting into a whole second game. I'm no offense to Rudy or Hoosiers or whatever he forces the players to watch before they come out. But yeah, emotion's not going to get you anywhere at Arrowhead.
And let's be honest, that game against the Chargers, look, credit the Raiders. They played a good game. But they took advantage of a team. I watched that entire game because I had fantasy implications. And I'm a sicko, right? So
How
I
you
would have
doing
watched
there,
it
by the
anyway.
way?
I'm in the playoffs.
Okay.
Like, all but one of my leagues. So doing good.
Nice.
But I'll tell you what, man, the Chargers it was much more about the fact that the Chargers were just the most uninterested in winning a football game team that I've ever seen, ever. And I've been here through, Herm Edwards and Todd Haley and all that stuff, 2 and 14 seasons. The Chargers in that game, the effort was like they were just like, I guess we'll make the tackle eventually on this play because like we have to. You know what I mean? Like there was no urgency, no passion. They were just it was just like they were broken. It was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from an NFL team. No focus, just complete and utter meltdown. And it did not get any better. Like they came out after the half and it didn't get better.
Crazy. Because the Raiders didn't even have Josh Jacobs in that game, right?
Yeah, no.
Crazy.
They just obliterated, absolutely obliterated the Chargers so badly, that it cost Staley his job. Like Staley was going to get fired anyway, but like if they put up a fight, he probably would have made it to the end of the season.
Sure.
But that was a game by the way, if you didn't watch, 63-21. That's a college score.
Yeah.
Usually in the NFL, like if a team gets to 50, they let off the gas pedal. But the Chargers were so bad, the Raiders couldn't help but keep scoring.
Aiden O'Connell, he can't help himself. He can't help himself. Hey, look, am I alone in thinking this, by the way? The Raiders, if they got a good quarterback in there, if they got a decent Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Mike Mayer, the new tight end, Josh Jacobs, they've got a nice group of skill position players that can move the chains. Hunter Renfrow, some others in there too. I kind of like what they have on offense.
Yeah, even Aiden O'Connell. I don't think he's probably an NFL starter. He played at Purdue, but I think he's done pretty well for them this year, stepping in, being a rookie out of not a major program. I think he's probably maybe a good backup quarterback, but who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, if you put him in Kyle Shanahan's offense is he Brock Purdy? Maybe
he's MVP candidate, right?
Yeah, he can do some things well. And in that game, he was 20 of 34 for 248 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. So, but also in that game, Zamir White rushed for 4.1 yards a carry. So, you know what I mean? And Amir Abdullah, 5.3 yards a carry. Brandon Bolden got a couple carries for 25 yards. It was just, yes, they have some nice pieces on this Raiders team, but they just have had bad coaching and bad quarterback play. So, I think this is going to be a wake-up call for them. I think it's tough to have a game like that and then, play the Chiefs. That.
Yeah.
And again, remember, this is a Raiders team that, as you pointed out, the week before they beat the Chargers 63-21, they lost to the Vikings 3-0 in maybe the worst NFL game of all time.
Shut out. How do you, that's the other extreme. How do you do that? Aiden O'Connell, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever you want to believe about him. I'll say this: they'll move the chains because their offense on Sunday a bit. Chiefs are going to give up some yards. They're going to give them up to Mayer, especially. Remember, we had a hard time stopping Hunter Henry. When we lost Brian Cook for the season, we lost a big part of our ability to shut some of that down. So they're going to convert some of those 3rd and longs. Because of that, Mike Edwards is just not. He's a fantastic player in opportunistic situations, not so much in, hey, we need you to consistently stop guys in coverage, stick with your guy. Yeah, it's just, but anyway, that's we'll be fine though.
Yeah, I'm not worried about this one. Who do you think needs to step up for the Chiefs offensively in this game? Sky Moore now out of the equation. Who needs to step up and play well in this one if the Chiefs are going to win on offense?
It's got to be the guy you mentioned, right? It's got to be the guy that Andy Reid mentioned. Andy Reid said, quote, "We got to get Richie James more than 2 snaps." That I don't know if he's talking about serial. Maybe he's talking about 3 snap, crackle, pop, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
I think that he's the obvious next man up. All right, Sky's out. Justin Ross. I guess maybe the amount
Can't be worse than what you had.
No, but the weird amount of belief and trust that people have in Justin Ross to be something at this point. I just don't share it. I guess I'll just say it that way. So yeah, to me, it's Richie James. That's the most realistic step up and make some waves.
Funny thing is, there were reports that the Chiefs were trying to trade him at the trade deadline.
That's right.
At
the time we looked loaded at returner. At the time we looked loaded.
That's the thing that just is, I don't understand why they were trying to trade him when they were watching these guys go out there and clown car. Lucas says you hate Justin Ross. I don't
hate Justin Ross at all.
Justin Ross is like the backup quarterback of wide receivers, right?
Yes, thank you.
It doesn't mean that it won't work out if he gets consistent play.
It doesn't, but
his popularity is 1 part raw talent, 1 part a couple highlights, and 10 parts he's not Sky Moore. Right? That's just
yeah. The guy had his heyday back when Mike Pennell first signed with the Chiefs the first time around. Yeah. He's had career-threatening injuries since then, including spine and neck related. He wasn't drafted at least 7 times by 32 NFL teams. He hung around last year as an injury threat. He made the roster this year as a feel-good story. He's caught 3 of 6 passes and then set the last several weeks on the exempt list. And I'm telling you that the amount of people who think he's going to get highlight plays in the final 3 games of this season and help save the Chiefs wide receiving core is bananas to me. I went to a Christmas market last night where there were a bunch of characters like Jack Frost and Santa and whatever else was going on, and kids were getting all their pictures taken with them. And I thought the amount of faith that these people have that these characters are real is less than the silly zeal that people have and faith in Justin Ross. I was like, Justin needs to be a character out here getting his picture taken with the little kids who believe in him too. I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
Well, I think those same people would say Matt Connor's zeal and belief in Kadarius Toney.
Well, dude, I would take my picture with Kadarius. I love Kadarius Toney, and it's not. Yeah, I'm wrong about it, but I'm all in. I'm all in.
I will say that of those 3 catches that Justin Ross had, one of them was really impressive. In fact, it was more impressive than any catch MVS, Sky Moore, or Richie James has made all season.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Of it, right?
Yeah, and let me say this, and I'll speak for anyone else telling the truth about Justin Ross. everyone wants Justin Ross to succeed. All right. I mean, like 100% of Chiefs Kingdom would love to see Justin Ross step up and be an answer. It sounds great. It's just like but when you say that he's going to do it, just say, I'm holding out belief that he will for no good reason, because there's no good reason. That's all I'm saying.
That's I think you know it. All right, let's get to our predictions for this game. Lay it on me, Matt. What's your final score for this one?
Yeah, I think the Chiefs scored 24. I think we're still going to sputter a little bit here, but I think the Raiders will put up like 9 points, like 3 field goals. Sounds good.
I think they'll get a touchdown. They've just got too much offensive talent. One of those wide receivers will figure something out, sneak back there for one early on. But I got the Chiefs in this one going big, 28-13, Kansas City. I think they go right on the 41-point over-under line there and take care of business, give everybody that Christmas present they're asking for. We'll go to the chat. Oregon Fishing says 31-10, KCDC 37-27.
Well, that's a lot of points.
Yeah. I hope they don't score 27 on us. Thought Tactical 28-17. So those are some predictions from the chat. Appreciate you guys hit that like button. Before we get out of here, real quick, we've got a happy hour with our members, so we've got to get to that. And boy, do I need a drink because I've been in 3 straight meetings. I've been in 3 hours. I've been going. Quick cereal review. If you're new here, this is a cereal podcast where we sometimes talk about the Chiefs. I've been trying to eat a little less of the sugary cereal. I don't want to get too out of control here around the holidays. But I just could not walk by the Cinnamon Toast Crunch gingerbread flavor one more time without knowing how good it is. So I grabbed a box last night. Our cereal rating scale is by CT crunches. So, 0 to 5 CT crunches.
Love it.
It's 5 CT crunches. It's
It
CT
is.
crunch. Oh, it's so good. It's everything you love about CT crunch, the texture, the powder, the CT crunch flavor, but also with gingerbread. They didn't try to do too much with it, right? Like it is like, also, can we just say, we don't talk enough about gingerbread during non-Christmas seasons. Like, has anybody ever given you a piece of gingerbread in like October or like, hell, August? Here, Matt, I made some gingerbread. Gingerbread is incredible. And every time I have gingerbread, I'm like, God damn, gingerbread's shit. Why don't I eat more gingerbread? And then a whole year goes by and I don't have any gingerbread. I don't make any gingerbread. I don't buy any gingerbread. And Christmas comes along and I'm like, oh God, gingerbread's so good. Why don't I eat more gingerbread? Like, what's wrong with us all? We don't talk enough about gingerbread. It should be like a year-round thing, like Count Chocula. Do you agree?
I guess I do. It's a good, it's like pumpkin spice. Like the flavor comes out and it's super popular because it's only there for a season. I was gonna do a joke of like I dated her in high school, like I normally do around names like gingerbread, but yeah, I gotta try this out. I'm gonna try it to believe it for myself. Are you an eggnog fan, by the way? The other big holiday flavor.
I do like eggnog. Kemp's Gold is where you want to go with the eggnog. Kemp's Gold, terrific.
Kemp's Gold.
I got a brother-in-law who's just like obsessed with eggnog during this time of year. He drinks it. He doesn't put booze in it. He's just drinking nog like nonstop. But I like it. It's delicious. Throw a little bit of brandy in there. Perfect.
He's on the noggy list.
Yeah, he's on the noggy list. Angry Drunken German says to use eggnog in the gingerbread CT Crunch. That's a great idea. All right, everybody, listen. We got to go. We got a happy hour. We would love to see you at a happy hour soon. So if you like this podcast and you want to help support it, check out the link in the description. We've got a bunch of different membership levels. You'll get at the bare minimum, you get access to the Discord to view, to not participate, but you can follow the conversation. You get a newsletter, and then there's levels that go up from there. It's not too crazy, but it supports this Chiefs content. We invest every single penny back into the podcast. Matt Connor, myself, we're full-time employees at Fansided. Sterling, Verderam, Adam Best, they are not. So, we want to keep the show going, and that's how we support it. We're not looking to make a bunch of money here. We're just looking to build a really great Chiefs platform for you all. So we appreciate the support. We're not going to do a Christmas show. We've decided we're going to give ourselves the holiday off from the podcast. Unless something absolutely mad happens, I'll find a way to get on YouTube. But otherwise, you're on your own for post-game, pre-game, and all that stuff on Saturday. But enjoy the time with your families. If you celebrate Christmas, if you don't, if you're Jewish, happy Hanukkah. If you don't celebrate anything, happy holiday season to you. It's just a nice time of year I love this time of year because it's about, if you find the spirit of it, it's about sort of like reflection and giving and, thinking about the people, spending time with the people that we love and care about. And so I hope all of you out there that are listening and have supported us all year long, have a wonderful next couple of weeks to end this year and find some hope and comfort in the company of others, or if not, at least in the company of this podcast. We really appreciate you and value your listenership and support more than you'll probably ever know. So thank you for everything. We will be back next week with a show or two. I'm gonna be off, but I'm gonna do a show for you all on Thursday and get you ready for that New Year's Eve game. And Verderam, me and Verderam, New Year's Eve, just how you always wanted to celebrate. We'll be here and get you ready for Chiefs Bengals, which should be an interesting game. We got a note, Sterling, if you're seeing this, Merry Christmas. All right, we're late for our own happy hour. We got to get going. Thank you to producer Richard for keeping us up and running. Thank you, Matt Connor, for joining me today. Thank you to all of our members, and we will see you guys next week. But until then, as always, happy holidays and go Chiefs.